Peace. What's good? What's good? I hope you guys can hear me clear. Just falling through. I don't have as much time as I'd like to have to spend with you today to just go over the video. By the way, shouts out to MD. Great video, good information. Had some things I'd love to interject. You know what I'm saying? If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's interesting. And it is very informative from, I believe, an American history perspective. I would have liked to see more our involvement in that, our place. And you said some things that really raised some issues like the lost cause. I thought that was great. I thought that was, interesting to bring across. Actually, that was new to me. Peace, Deacon. Actually, that was new to me. So that was a good thing. But you're endorsing that in a way. You know what? Before I do it though, I'm gonna get you guys permission. I would like to be able to use that video, go over that video, and just, raise the questions then, because I had a little notepad and I was trying to, and I really didn't have the time to sit down. But I did have an opportunity to put some things together. Like I said, it's going to be brief, but I wanted to throw this out there because I believe in anything, like we pushed over there. When I was over there, I brought that same philosophy over here. It should be based and centered in reality when dealing with us from our perspective, from is it beneficial or a detriment? Like I said, the information was right and exact. I thought that it was informative. It was very informative, but it was so mainstream American history. It was, albeit put together. I'm not saying that it wasn't packaged tightly, but it was still very mainstream and very general. I missed our direct involvement. You made reference. It sounded like I said, it sounded like mainstream American history. You made reference to us. You touched on here and there, and you kind of glossed over it. Like, I don't know if in your pushing, being a proponent or your advocacy for the American way of life, the system, you should see my air quotes there, brother, the system, your advocacy for this way of life is making you just kind of fly over some of the very contradictive and criminal behavior of the system you want to be in. You talked about the long depression or the depression. I thought that was wonderful. You talked about how these people robbed and broke the Freedmen's Bank. We're going to go through that. I'm going to touch on that. I didn't have the time. Like I said, man, I thought it was a tough ass presentation. But going back to that point, so why again would you want to blend economics and try that again when you have stamped out a time in history? The civil rights, the Civil War, yeah. I think slavery was a part of it. However, I don't think you should rush past, like you said, the other things that involve. See, it seemed like the things that we should be grateful to America for, you kind of emphasize on the freedom of slavery, this and that, but not that it was just a component like the industrialization and the true sentiments of Lincoln and Andrew Johnson and all the way through towards Black people here, towards our presence here in America. So that's what I wanted to, and that I wanted to touch on. So like, I believe in, you have to be grounded and based in the reality. You use a lot of ifs and a lot of could-haves. A lot of ifs and a lot of could-haves. If you go back, listen, I almost started taking tally. I'm like, it's almost sounded like Fantasy Island a little bit. If we shoulda, woulda, coulda. But here's our predicament. And why is our predicament as such? This is what I want to touch on. Let me do this. Let me see if I can go here and do the darn thing. Because and like I said, I'm not gonna be too long. But I wanted to touch on some things. And I think it's important. Like I said, if you go back to that debate I had with Blue, shouts out. If you go back to the debate I had with Blue, then one of the things I was talking about was that, your empirical data, your starting point based in your reality, based in your substance. And one of the things I think MD's reality is very Americanized. I think MD recognizes that he's black, and it's not. I shouldn't even point. I'm not even trying to be specific on brother MD. I'm just talking about here it is. Unfortunately, he's the spokesman for that demographic. But I'm talking about tons of melanated people right here on the shores of North America in this construct called the United States of America that share the same sentiment. And it's called ambivalence. It's called ambivalence. It's a love-hate thing. It's a love-hate thing. You hate your oppressor, but you love your oppressor. You love yourself, but you hate yourself. It's ambivalence. It's a real thing. Check it out. Look it up. I tease you not. So that's a phenomena that, our trauma or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know the word you would put on it. That is real in our community. And this is and the brother's brilliant, but this is what I believe the brother suffers from here. And even in his political allegiance, his political perspective, and his political leanings. I don't know how anywhere you could support the lost cause doctrine. And I think you said point 3 or something was that the Negro was incapable of governing themselves, but yet you would endorse and say, okay, I could see how they would use this. Like you even said, Frederick Douglass, who is probably the biggest integrationist. We remember and revere the Egun Frederick Douglass. He's an ancestor. So I'm not going, because I ain't walk a half a mile in his sandals. But some of us more radical brothers say, even Frederick Douglass. Okay, how about that? So even Frederick Douglass, whom is, the father of integrationist movement, recognized the devilment in that doctrine. You can't out integrate old Frederick. You going to the next level. Even Frederick Douglass was like, "Whoa, slow it now." Like you even said, 3-card Monty. So I don't know. You and I would have to speak on that. What's good, man? Peace to the chat. Peace to the chat. So we go to the first thing. We ask, so do you really think you're a citizen? Uh-oh. Do I got? All right, so we're talking about the Constitution. We're talking about, let me go back here for a minute, because I'm just threw some stuff together. I don't even know if it's in the order that I need it to be in. So we're talking about the Constitution. We already know that we were not a part of that making or that understanding. I'll go back and do a thing about John Henson and all that, and whatever perspective you want to bring it. I'm going to bring it from a political. So John Henson may have been the first president, quote, we love to throw this little, coffee table fact, a chit chat for, John Henson was the first Black president. Yeah, but we're talking about a constitutional president. They don't even, the fact that that's a side note for a white supremacist argument, that they won't even mention that. And then if they do, they'll be like, yeah, but we're talking constitutional president here. So we know that Negroes, us, melanated people, were not intentionally included in their Constitution. And the amendments they begin to make to their Constitution, we find December 15th, 1971. December 15th, 1791. We were still enslaved when the first 12 amendments were handed down. Freedom to assembly, freedom to this and that. We were still enslaved when these things were handed down. So you couldn't have been considered, thought about, pondered upon You were a commodity. You and I, our ancestors, our presence here was a hell, was a horror. We were a commodity. They didn't look, they gave no thought to that. All right. Then we're going to talk about, I love how, like I said, I think he just kind of breezed through this history of leading up to emancipation. Frederick Douglass, the involvement, like you can't give it over to just these liberal white folk. You can't just give it over to these liberal white folk. You know, you talked about the Andrew Johnsons, you talked about the Ulysses S. Grant. I couldn't even believe, I kind of almost felt like you tried to paint that crack in a certain light. I was like, not Grant. I know he ain't gonna go there, but I don't know. I think you're a star Southerner, son. Maybe you're gonna be mad at me because I'm a Midwesterner. And I have a different view and take on it. These guys are not in no way, shape, form, or fashion my hero. Do I look to their strategies and tactics as a general on the battlefield? Albeit when I have to look at it objectively and from strategies and things of that nature, it's called battlefield respect, general respect. You know, it's battlefield respect. Their tactics at that point, but the person, when I remember who I'm reading, it I think that takes away from my superpower of extracting everything I could, because just my disdain, my very dislike for their being on the planet Earth, for who they are and what they represented and what they fought to keep intact, just naturally leads me as dog and cat mode. Cat chase dog, dog chase cat, cat run, for that type of thing. I just a natural dislike. So, but anyway, we lead up to that. We get to the 13th Amendment, the abolishment of slavery. All right. So now here it is. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring, quote, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of the state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then thenceforth and forever free. Okay, so this is Lincoln making that proclamation. All right. All slave holding states, the slaves are free. He didn't do that because he had a change of heart. Like I said, we're going to break down. I'm going to have another live where we go into even Lincoln's sentiments towards us. But it was all political. You have to remember that it is all to maintain a white male power structure, to ensure their continuance, their way of life. This is how their politics roll. Their politics address their way of life. We're people that don't believe politics. Fred Hampton said everything is politics. Politics is everything. The dialectic, the day-to-day dialectics is called politics. Your day-to-day living, how you get down, how you pay them bills, how you get this to do that, how you make this flip to that, how you deal with your children in school and dealing with the teaching and homework and feeding the baby and yada, yada. All that's politics. And when you understand that's politics, you start to look around at the things that affect those things near to you. What I mean is, okay, if I'm acting this way, why am I doing this? Why am I taking money from here to do this, and it tricks it all the way back up to the suckers involved. If you get deep, like in the Matrix, the suckers involved in city council, you're taxing, property tax and this tax. You become to be involved in your own politics to the point that it expands. But I don't want to get away from that. So Lincoln, it's politics. He frees the slaves because he knows they're going to civil war. So what happened? Nonetheless, the Emancipation Proclamation did not end slavery in the nation, since it only applied to areas of the Confederacy currently in a state of rebellion, and did not even to the loyal border states that remained to the Union. What just happened here? Lincoln freed all the slaves in the Confederate states, but not the states that were loyal to the Union. What? Oh, they ain't teach us that in school. Did we miss that? It was a ploy. Shouts out, I'm not hating on anything that freed our Edwin, that freed our ancestors. I'm just saying, when we're looking at the political facts by it, don't push grateful politics. Don't push to the black masses grateful politics. Well, you should be grateful. This is what happened, so you got here. You should be grateful. No, it was all political. We always grateful. However, we're not grateful for him. It's just called evolution on their part, and we're trying to be able to do that. We want the freedom to be able to evolve like that. So we go on. So now let's talk about, so that's the 13th Amendment. So let's talk about quickly. Let's talk about the 15th Amendment because I think this is crazy. Let me see if I'm going in because, like I said, I'm all over the place. Okay, I may have put this in the wrong place. Let's talk about this though. The 15th Amendment. So he talked about the 15th Amendment. Here's what's crazy though. If you have if the 13th frees you, the 14th gave you gave you citizenship, then why do you need another amendment to vote? Because like he said, it's all games. Passed by Congress in February 26, 1869, and ratified February 3rd, 1870, the 15th Amendment granted African American men the right to vote. I love what he said. He's absolutely right. It doesn't specifically say African American, Black, Negro, any specifics. And it's a trick for that. And we'll talk about it in a minute. Set free by the 13th Amendment, with citizenship guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. If you got citizenship guarantee, why do you have to have another amendment to vote? Because it's a word game. We'll see. Black males were given the vote by the 15th Amendment. In retrospect, though, it can be seen that the 15th Amendment was in reality only another step in the struggle for equality that would continue for more than a century before African Americans could begin to participate fully in American public and civil life. Right. Because it didn't speak specifically to their language. So like he said, they could write black codes in to keep us politically suppressed. But you know who the 15th Amendment did guarantee? You have to remember at that time too, man, you had immigrants coming over here, Irish, German, Dutch. The fact that the government, that the state has never been specific, the fact that the state has never been specific in naming out exactly who these things were intended for has always led to us not really receiving them or receiving them fully and other people taking full advantage. We've seen that in the civil rights movement all the way down to the Affirmative Action Act. That foreign women begin to come on, man. You talk about that's the greatest thing about it. That's what you really love about it, that it isn't specific in language. That has been the murder of Black people in America. So you're right. This was not specific in language, but it was with white supremacy already being a thing. Black people beginning to outnumber, out politically maneuver. They started seeing with this freedom, they had to ensure they're ensuring their numbers by making sure that they create a process to naturalize their people, because that's what was happening to you and I. This is what you don't know, but I'll go into that. So this is what that was. Why this still, we see that happen, it says in retrospect, in hindsight, it can be seen that the 15th Amendment was in reality only another step in the struggle for equality that would continue for more than a century before African Americans could begin to participate fully in American public and civil life. For more than a century. But them pale, pasty-faced immigrants received the reward of that off the rip. I bet you that. Bet you that. Passed by Congress June 13th, 1866, and ratified July 9th, 1868, the 14th Amendment extended liberties and rights granted by the Bill of Rights to formerly enslaved people. Okay, I kind of had them out of order. Not only did the 14th Amendment fail to extend the Bill of Rights to the state, it also failed to protect the rights to Black citizens. See what I'm saying? Not only did it fail to extend the Bill of Rights to the states, it also failed to protect the rights of Black citizens. And that's where, boom, this is why I wanted to do a whole thing where we go over your video, because you actually did, Brother MD, talk about that. You talk about the manipulation and the wrangling of political power that gave back, and I thought that was very insightful, that would ensure that these very same murderous and barbarous crackers maintained, regained, and would be able to maintain their power through I hope when you walk through Jim Crow, you talk about the cruelty of Jim Crow, the land grabs, the blatant human rights abuse. the genocide taking place against our people down there openly. While you're saying this same country is supposed to protect us and we can find some type of, if we just participate hard enough that these people have participated. You talk about the surge in Black power, Black excellence, Black stability during Reconstruction and them feeling threatened. I mean, you're sitting here spelling it out. That's why I said, I don't know how you couldn't be on the side of separation and creating a Black land through a strategic withdrawal. Nobody's not saying don't completely participate, but not participate with the hope that, you know what I'm saying, what you're pointing out is clearly a sinking ship. And what you're pointing out is so excellent because it is actually giving me more insight into how they can do, there again, plug and segue to Jackson, Mississippi, how they can do what they're actually doing to Jackson, Mississippi. You talked about how they wrested political, economic power out of the hands of free black people who what though? Trusted in this fucking system. Freaking system, excuse me. All right, so it says, while these citizens did not succeed in powering the 14th Amendment during Reconstruction, they effectively articulated arguments and offered dissenting opinions that would be the basis for change in the 20th century. Absolutely. This is where you would see the civil rights movement birthed off of. All right, so let's go into this citizen thing. Citizen. So what is a citizen? I just had to look it up, you know. And I know this probably will open the door for a lot of conversations because they okay, I'm just jumped over to the chat. You had to forgive me, chat. I'm over in like the other thing. So, excuse me. So, you know, looking into citizenship, I said, let's start with the basis. Let's start with just square one, step one. What is a citizen? So I went and looked it up. It said a citizen is a native or a naturalized person who owes allegiance to a government and is entitled to protection from it. It's a native or a naturalized person. Two key words, those words jumped out, native or naturalized. So the native, what was a native? Native is indigenous. Native is indigenous. Now understand when I talk about indigenous in this sense or native in this sense, I'm not just talking about a land mass. I'm not talking about North America. We know this pale-faced beast. You know what I'm saying? We know this white boy and white girl aren't indigenous to this place. I'm talking about the construct of America. That is their baby. Like we talked about earlier, when they wrote the Constitution, when they did the first 12 Bill of Rights, or the first 12 amendments that would be called the Bill of Rights, we were not considered, I think we understand that. So this is their baby. They are native to this. They are produced, growing, living, or occurring natively or naturally in a particular region or environment. So they're the indigenous to the Americas, the way that they have interpreted and defined it. That's a citizen. So they're a citizen of their country, a native to that. So what is the naturalized? Or so what is naturalization? To confer the rights of a national on or especially to admit to citizenship. See, so here we're establishing the fact because point number 5, y'all know I'm a Black Panther man. That's right, brother. And point number 5 of the Black Panther Party says we want a true history that teaches the nature of this decadent society and the position of the Black man and the Black woman in this decadent society. Where are we? We have to know our standing. So first, understanding they not looking at you like you was a part of the whole American citizenship as organically part of its infrastructure of political process and upward mobility through certain class and economic status. You were a commodity, bruh. You had no more rights than, I think, cows and some things. Cows were more protected than Negroes. But they still didn't get them voting rights to treat them like it. That's what you were. Let's get this understanding. Now, when I say you, that's an connection to our ego, to our ancestors. So that's was the look of the day. So we became naturalized into this society to confer the rights of a national on, especially to admit to citizenship, to bring into conformity with nature, or to become established as if native, not native, but to become established as if native. We fell for the illusion of inclusion. We fell for the illusion of inclusion. You know what I'm saying? That's what we fell for. So these little, but I get it. It's a relief from trauma. Any little let up, any little let up, it was a relief for trauma. So understand that we were naturalized. They don't look at us as like organically part of this system. We were naturalized in. And in this naturalized in and the 13th Amendment, the freeing of you gave you the freeing of you, the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment, so-called giving you rights, and so-called giving you the right to vote, but not being enforced, not being of any power, not being of any substance. Malcolm called it this second-class citizen. Second-class citizen. That's what they regulate you to. Go back and listen to some Malcolm speeches. I love it. So-called second-class citizen. This is part of this naturalized citizen brought in through a process. Isn't that what it is? Brought in through a process, given rights conferred upon you, admitted to citizenship as if. So what is second-class citizen? A citizen, especially a member of a minority group who is denied the social, political, and economic benefits of citizenship. A person who is not accorded a fair share of respect, recognition, or consideration. And that sounds sweet. It's terrible, but it's sweet. See, there's no, like Malcolm also told us, there's no such thing as a second-class citizen. A citizen, look how it contradicts itself. A citizen, especially a member of a minority group who is denied the social, political, and economic benefits of citizenship. That's not a citizen then. A person who is not accorded a fair share of respect, recognition, or consideration, that's not a citizen. That's a trick that he tell he got you fighting. Stop treating me like a second-class citizen. Still have you attaching yourself, still having you believe in that citizenship lies in there somewhere. No, it's not citizenship. Let me tell you what it is. It's denizen. It's denizen. Oh, it's a political term for it. You are something. It's just not called second-class citizen. See, Malcolm pulled the wools off of that. Second class, there's no such thing. It's an oxymoron. It's fresh frozen. You know what I'm saying? Either you're fresh or you're frozen. Well, it's frozen fresh. Okay. All right. You're a second-class citizen. What is a denizen? This is the political term. So let's what is this denizen? A denizen is an inhabitant. An inhabitant. You taking up space. You taking up space. You're an inhabitant. That's it. You don't have any rights. Government, political government. What is the definition? A person admitted to residency in a foreign country, an alien, admitted to rights of citizenship, one that frequents a place. So that's what you are. You're a denizen. And you were given the illusion of a citizenship, and you begin to, or we, and I'll say we, I'll make us connected here, begin to really believe that we'll say one. Like I said, I was listening to the presentation, great presentation. I don't want to knock that, but I'm listening to how you're presenting it. And you're presenting it with, first it's very general, and it's very, am I to include myself in some of that history? It is, but to me, it's peripheral. It's on the outskirts. It's what I need to know to explain what put us in the position we were in. And I didn't hear a lot of that. When I heard emphasis being made, it sounded to me like grateful politics, I call it. Like, look, if this didn't happen, you wouldn't be here. But you're not visiting the point. If that didn't happen, we wouldn't be here. But what if this happened? So let's not talk about if, let's speak in the realities. Yes, we praise God and we thank the forces of the ancestors that shed light and gave us brilliance and swiftness of mind and courage of heart to do what we had to do. However, we don't celebrate our tormentors and our oppressors. I'm not telling you how to get on with your spiritual. I ain't saying y'all can wish death and destruction on them. I'm just saying, I believe in a just universe. And I'll just leave it at that. I believe in a just universe. So I'm not going to all of a sudden give this devil a benevolent heart. Can't do it. It's not in me. Okay. So what is the difference between a citizen and a denizen? The original meanings of these words were that a citizen was a natural born resident of a locale. A denizen was an alien who was what? Made into a citizen through some process. What was that process? It's called the amendments. What was that process? It's called the amendments. You were not a citizen until a process of amending your citizenship was made into the Constitution, and then gradual processes had to accompany that process, freeing your black booty, then giving you rights, allegedly. But like you said, since it's not so specific, everybody took advantage of it, and they still racially discriminate against us because we're still trying hard to get you, then even giving you the right to vote. So what is the difference between a citizen and a denizen? Just one more time. The original meanings of these words were that a citizen was a natural born resident of a locale, and a denizen was an alien. I guess you could put slave there, maybe. I don't know. You know, I'm bold to play with. I like to challenge and push the depth. I'm a self-determinist. And self-determinist believes we have the right to defy things for ourselves, especially when we make, when it betters us. So that alien, can I put slave there? Former slaves, former enslaved, not slave, we were enslaved. We were humans, Africans or whoever, some they say captured us here from the land, wherever you tracing your origin story back to, there's one thing that's indeniable or undeniable is your treatment then and now. So the original meanings of these words was that a citizen was a natural born resident of a local, and a denizen was an alien who was made into a citizen through some process. All right. So we go into that, and I'll get ready to wrap it up. So we go, we look, so now we see our place. Wow. And I'm hoping we're like, okay, wow. Yeah, let me get this citizen rap out of my head. I'm not even looked at like that. And there again, I go back. Every opportunity I get, I'm going to mention Jackson, Mississippi. Every opportunity I get, I'm going to mention Jackson, Mississippi. If you don't do nothing but arm yourself with information, that may move you, that may stir you, that may inspire you to get involved any way that you can, even if it isn't that. Y'all know I'm a big old spiritualist head. Laugh at me. Here I go. But if that's even praying for Jackson, Mississippi, y'all beat me up later about it. I don't have time today. But even if you, send energy that way, real talk. So understanding how this is accomplished, this is why it's important to know how we're looked at. Like you were saying, these words, us not being named specific and all of those things are very important. You don't think they knew that? They knew that what you find great may just be the very downfall. They knew that. So let's go. So we've already established that we were denizens. There was a process that we were just inhabitants. We were given citizenship, and those that giveth can taketh. You know what I'm saying? And that That process was the amendments. Now we have to check out this process. Can this process be reversed? This is what we should ask ourselves. This process that gave us these so-called rights, can it be reversed? Can an amendment be changed? Any existing constitutional amendment can be repealed, but only by the ratification of another amendment. Because repealing amendments must be proposed and ratified by one of the same two methods of a regular amendment. All right, so there you go. Amendments can be changed. They have to repeal it by bringing another amendment. They have to repeal it by bringing another amendment, but it sticks to, and we're going to go a little bit into that, shows you there right there. I want you to stop and think about that. When you talk about how much of a citizen any of you are, that the very rights that wrote you in, or the very process, legislation that wrote you into so-called rights can be appealed through a repeal. They can write in amendments to react that. It is called a repeal. If you were a citizen, you would never worry about that. First of all, if you was a citizen, you wouldn't have to have an amendment write you in. That right there is the cornerstone of the whole argument. I don't know how we get around that fact. However, if we're going to play with it for the sake of playing around, okay. But the fact that the very thing, the process that brought me in is not even a process. It should be a law that this process is final and foremost, and therefore, and so on forever. Cross my I's and cut my D's and hocus pocus. It should be, you know what I'm saying? It shouldn't even be able to be touched. The very mention of taking your right should be sacrilege. However, it is up there amongst other laws that can be your rights as a human being, one that is leading faith in this system. Somebody can write a law, the Congress, 2/3 of this and 2/3 of that will go into a repeal process, can actually propose a law to snatch all your rights. And you think it ain't no joke? Let's go back to what I've been talking about all morning. Jackson, Mississippi, who has their total, complete political power, police power, and now they're trying to get the very money, fundings that the federal government has sent down there for Jackson's water. These white boys, these crackers, are trying to get their hands in that money that Chokwe Lumumba and the rest of them hardworking men and women in Jackson, Mississippi has petitioned, fought, cried, boiled water, suffered through. And we advocating this? Man, come on, man, it's criminal. So what is a repeal? What is a repeal? A repeal is to rescind or annul by authoritative act, to revoke or abrogate by legislative enactment. That can happen. That's a repeal. That's what can happen to your amendments, your very rights. Okay, man, that sounds far-fetched, brother. Come on, Yanga. Let's keep it 21, brother. You know, do you think something like that would happen? You know, do you think the government, Poetic Empress, the government can repeal. It doesn't have to be the UK or whatever, the government. They can take it. It's happening in Jackson, Mississippi. I mean, it's on a very smaller scale. They enacted a 1890. Shouts out to Noble for getting me right and exact on that. And I hope I'm getting it right and exact again. If she's in the chat, please put it up there. So, MD Peace, man. I wish I could drop the chat. Because I'm gonna have to come back. I told you I was gonna have some response. You know, man, you know I'm doing it respectfully, brother. You know how we do. So we ask ourselves, we may say, oh, that sounds far-fetched, brother Yanga. But has an amendment ever been repealed? I had to ask myself that. I started getting paranoid. I started saying, oh, Lord. Y'all begin to have me start thinking about some things. And there again, why? Why do I think? Because I am a self-determinist. So I understand I'm a Black nationalist. And part of Black nationalism is family, cornerstone, key cornerstone. So I look at posterity, I look at long term, I look at generational. I'm not looking for microwave effect. I may not see so-called Black land. I may not see this independent of Black self, but I start the journey by creating, the momentum to pass down. And the way we create that momentum is not just politically pointing out things, not just cultural. We do a lot of cultural pointed out. We need to do harder, boy. The young culture is fighting back while allowing them room to express themselves. However, not just cultural, not just through eating, but through political participation. Through political participation towards self-determination. All of these play a factor. So I was like, man, so I had to ask, has an amendment ever been repealed? In the history of the United States, only one constitutional amendment has been repealed. It has happened. Incredible. In 1933, the 21st Amendment repealed the 18th Amendment, better known as Prohibition, banning the manufacture and sale of alcohol in the United States. So that was repealed. That's interesting. It's interesting on two things. One, it shows that, an amendment is not etched in stone. And secondly, which it just reiterates what we already know, is that this is a capitalist society. And if it makes money, if it, helps to maintain their lifestyle that they're accustomed to, they don't care nothing about going in there and repealing. Like I said, the fact remains, don't miss the fact. The fact remains that you have to be written into something, and people have an ability to write you out of it, means you don't belong to it. You're a guest here. Start preparing, you like sleeping on the sofa. What they tell you when you sleeping on the sofa, say, bro, how long you gonna be here? What? Come on, bro. Y'all stop acting. Y'all done been at mama's house. Y'all done had to double back and go back to mama's. Mama coming and ask you, yeah, baby, I love you, and it's been good visiting. You've been here 30 days. How much longer you gonna be here, baby? So in the meantime, in between time, you getting your thing together. You doing whatever it takes, even if you cutting back on bad habits, because you got to save pennies. Them 5, them dime, them 20s adding up, pimping. Ain't smoking like it used to do. But you're preparing to get out of there. In no way are you sitting around and allowing yourself to believe. You see the signs. You see your mama agitated. When you first came, it was big old breakfasts. Now it's, you better not get a mama, what you cooking for breakfast? There's some cereal in there. Now you want cereal in there. She ain't even, what? And when that's gone, that's gonna be a wrap. She's not replacing nothing. You at that thing. That's where we're at with America. Now, what friend would you think come sit to you and tell, man, your mama really love you. She just tripping. She'll get over it. No, she wants you gone. So I cited a current thing. The most recent Second Amendment that's kind of under critical scrutiny. You know what I'm saying? Don't think they want to come after these amendments. You got them coming after the Second Amendment. Who? Former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens controversially called for the repeal of the Bill of Rights Amendment, which guarantees the right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You got white boys calling for the repeal of the Second Amendment. So in concluding this, pulling it all up, man, I hope we understand and that we clearly, because I only wanted to point out, and I do want to go over his video. Like I said, man, if you didn't catch it in the beginning, MD, great video. Great video. So, but yeah, they got my concerns. Questions, I should say, my questions. So I'm going to wrap it up here because I got things to do, fam. Got things to do. And I appreciate everyone falling out, man, checking me out. But I read this great article, and I don't think I could have put it together any better to sum it all up. Because after doing that, and that's why I said it didn't take a lot. I don't think I had to show you guys a lot. You know, I don't think I had to show you guys a lot. I just wanted to show the position. Like I said, I could get my Black Panther on this morning. Point number 5, man. I wanted you to see the space and the place that you operate in within this system called America and how you're looked at. Don't fall into, my advice would be to my brothers and sisters, don't fall into that citizen, whole complete citizen that I'm guaranteed that I have equity with white America or anybody else, or that even if I invest in this system as it exists right now, it will be a form of salvation. It needs a complete overhaul from morals to political. It needs a complete overhaul. Don't invest in the current system. Get your chips, get your chips and dip. You understand what I told you? You hear what I'm trying to tell you? Get your chips and dip. Self-determination, self-sufficiency is the only answer. Even if you don't see it for yourself, you're like, oh man, that's impractical. Learn to sit and meditate and vision the future. Think about what your great grandchildren look like. Think about what you've done. Picture yourself as the picture. I don't know, for a lot of us colonized brothers and sisters, I'm not even gonna say that. But picture your portrait over the mantle, over the great fireplace in your manor. What does your family look like sitting around that table? You have, what does it look like? You have doctors and lawyers, professors. That's cool. That's great. Mine look like dignitaries. Place of our own. Even if I haven't gotten to the place of what's that Wakanda look like, I'm talking about my dinner table. My future at that dinner table. I expanded past what is called the success of America, or this, that, what is given to me as the dream, what we should hope for and wish for. Nobody can put a cap on that. And believe me, when you begin to manifest it in your mind, your body subconsciously works towards that. If you vision your family sitting around the table like that, and they're these very powerful people, you begin to bring not only that energy, but the material, certain books in the house. You start watching certain programs in the house. You watch your mouth. You start watching your habit, because you subconsciously putting that in your seed, in your children who are watching you, who will put it in as you begin to create that culture. I'm not saying it's easy, man. My mouth's close to my ears. But that comes from knowing your place. If I keep selling my children the dream of, one day America's gonna get great. One day it's gonna get great. One day, and they're constantly. First of all, I can't keep doing 3 Monty to my children. I can't keep hitting them in the head with this club. It's like, okay, I don't even know how I could push that when they can just flip on the news. And not even the news. That's the sad thing. People say, I don't watch the news. Not even the news. I wish my children watch the news. I wish. It would give them at least a perspective. When you get it on YouTube, there's no perspective. There's nothing. There's no moderator. There's no commentary or any real commentary that is trying to make sense of the situation. At least the news labels it a crime. Yeah, I hate how they objectify and then criminalize and dehumanize us. You know what I'm saying? But at least they're labeling the murder a crime. It isn't, when you leave it up to the social, it comes on, it can be glorified. Listen, that's a whole nother live. Let me end with this, man, because I thought this author, G. Boy Jones of Rise, Will Institute to Society again. I'm slaughtering it, but I thought it was great. And I thought they pointed out some great facts. And it goes into a little bit of what we were talking about, it not speaking directly to us as Black people, us being amended in there, the amendments. I mean, I was like, dag. When I ran across this, I was like, this is everything I was attempting to say. Okay, There are anonyms in the Constitution. Words like people, person, and citizens have opposite meanings in the Constitution. The Fourth Amendment states in Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are, quote, citizens. So we talked about the naturalized. We're naturalized in that process, right? Amendments, naturalizers, got it. If that is true, then I have to propose a question. This is a great question. Where were white women considered a person? Huh? Were white women considered a person? Person means human being in the dictionary. Among several definitions, white women didn't become citizens until the Ninth Amendment. That means blacks were citizens before white women. I need y'all to think about that. That's what they call political maneuvering. That's why a lot of you got your so-called rights or thought you were citizens. And if you're talking about equity, women, white women, didn't become women to 1920, to the 19th Amendment. Your Constitution. But Javoy is talking about the play on words. So women, see, and this is how the devil does you. Trickology. So the 14th Amendment didn't include women, didn't give women rights. So women aren't persons. Women aren't persons. So let's go back and read that. I mean, that's heavy. Then I see why these, it makes some sense. Okay. So the white power structure has always known those esoteric concepts pertaining to the Constitution. In my opinion, the Fifth Amendment should not even exist because voting should be blacks' natural right as citizens of the United States. We talked about that. Okay, so like, and that's the whole thing. Okay, first we understood, we got it clear that we're not. You don't look at us as organic or native, being a part of the construct, being a part of the conception of the construct from holding any position of a power authority. We were a commodity. We get that. We were denizens. We were inhabitants. We were here. We had a presence. You got some would have us to believe that out of your benevolence. In school, they would teach us out of the benevolence of the good white folk, these very liberal teachings, that Lincoln and the rest of these crackers had a change of heart and decided to free us. However, we know it to be contrary. And I think that is something that should not be, flash pass. We're gonna talk about that. The other factors that led and contributed into the Civil War, like my man was pointing out, industrialization and shit like that, and trying to keep up during the industrialization period, and going back to why the black codes and why Jim Crowism, because when the North did take off, it, like he said, it kind of fettered and hindered the South, so they had to go back to a form of slavery, sharecropping, Jim Crowism, segregation, terrible shit stuff. Excuse me. So yeah, so we're there now. Javoy brings up this point. The white power structure has always known those esoteric concepts pertaining to the Constitution. In his opinion, and the Fifth Amendment should not even exist because voting should be blacks' natural right as, quote, citizens of the United States. Absolutely. Once you were brought in, why the Fifth Amendment? Let's go back to, look, Jackson, Mississippi. That's what they're doing down there. They are handpicking and appointing judges. They have stripped Jackson, Mississippi of their democratic right to say they can't vote. And they are giving no substantial reason, just some old constitutional stuff. Basically, Jackson's backlogged. They can't, basically just saying the Negroes are inferior. Saying it without saying it. Being political, like you said, this double talk, esoteric meanings. Put a name on it, we used to say. Put a name on it. All right. The government has played a major role in the disenfranchisement of blacks' ability to vote or to be true citizens. The government, the system. The government has played a major role in the disenfranchisement of blacks' ability to vote or to be true citizens. In the case of Dred Scott versus Sanford, the Supreme Court ruled that black persons were not and could not be citizens. Quote, a Negroes whose ancestors were imported into the U.S. and sold as slaves, end quote, whether enslaved or free, could not be an American citizen. So we know Dred Scott. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure all you guys out here are familiar with Dred Scott. I know all you guys out here familiar. So Dred Scott went down south. I think it was Mississippi. Mississippi staying some stuff. Mississippi, Nina Simone said, I'm a whisper. Nina Simone said, goddamn Mississippi. No, Mississippi, goddamn. That's what Nina Simone said. Mississippi stands some stuff. So anyway, Dred Scott goes down to Mississippi. I think he was in service to a master. The master dies, leaves him to the wife. The wife dies, gives him to the brother, him and his family to the brother. He sues. He sues for his freedom. He's like, all right, enough is enough. You know, and I'm not making trivia of the case. Anyway, that was the ruling. That was the ruling. When he sued for his emancipation, sued for his freedom, he's like, come on, man. We was just down here just visiting. But that was the ruling. What was the ruling? The ruling was, in the case of Dred Scott versus Sanford, the Supreme Court ruled that black persons were not and could not be citizens. A Negroes whose ancestor was imported into the U.S. and sold as slaves, whether enslaved or freed, could not be an American citizen and therefore did not have standing to sue in the federal court. Now, here's the crazy part about that. That case was never directly overturned, despite the passage of the 13th and 14th Amendment. What does that mean? That case still stands as a precedent on the law book. That law is still a precedent on the book because it was never overturned. You see what I'm saying? Even after the 13th Amendment, that should be overturned. Maybe that's something we should fight about, to overturn it. But we think, none of that matters. Now look, 1890 Mississippi Constitution got Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of Mississippi, the largest populated black city, stripped of all determination and self-sufficiency. Then even to the point where they're about to try to rob them. They're gonna get that federal money. Okay. She concludes, or he concludes, the fact that the first 12 amendments were ratified and have since never been revoked, but the 14th Amendment has constantly been altered, is proof of blacks being second-class citizens. Don't believe in second-class citizens and blacks being wet denizens. Let's call it for what it is. Let's take the sugar off of it. I think the Constitution should be rewritten to include the actual race of its citizens instead of using anonyms to hide the esoteric meanings. Blacks have never been truly backed by this government, and history is our proof. I don't think I could have summed it up any better, and I'm going to let her end with her words, because that's exactly what that is. You know, that's exactly what that is. That the fact, like she said, the language, the fact that they play on language, the fact that they do this and that, yeah, it's never backed us up. So I just wanted to drive home and reiterate that point. Like I said, I'm gonna have to go get me, hey, MD, I don't know if you still out there, MD. Throw out, see if put out there, man, let me use permission to go over your video. When I got time, I like to go over your video review, or maybe you and I can get in and chop it up. You know what I'm saying? We can chop it up. But that's the whole thing. Yeah, man. So I'm gonna end it there. I got some business to handle. I just wanted y'all to check it out. I appreciate everybody following through. Definitely smash that like button, subscribe. Let's get it out there. Let's keep it coming. Shouts out to SVDL. Shouts out to Dark Side, Starseed, and everybody for following through. I catch y'all on the flip. Peace.